Hello friends, welcome to this realistic lion tattoo tutorial. Here, I'll show you step by step how to go from stencil preparation to the final tattoo. I've already prepared the lion stencil design. You can also take a screenshot and use it for your own fake skin practice. To transfer the stencil onto fake skin, I'm using Tattoo Farmer Transfer Solution. This product helps the stencil stay clean, sharp, and long-lasting on the surface. After applying the stencil, we wait a few minutes until it's completely dry, and then we are ready to move on to the outlining stage of the lion tattoo. Before starting shading, we need to prepare grey wash. I prepared 4 caps. The first cap, full black. The second cap, 6 drops of black ink in solution. The third cap, 3 drops of black in solution. And the fourth cap, just 1 drop of black in solution. This setup gives us a smooth range, from pure black to very light shades, and it's perfect for creating natural shading for lion tattoo. In this tattoo, I used all types of needles: round liner, RL, for precise lines and details; round shader, RS, for soft shading; Magnum, M1 and M2, for filling large areas and creating smooth gradients; and flat, F, for wide lines and special textures. Next, I'll show you where and how to use each one, so the shading and details of the tattoo come out completely natural and professional. Stroke and speed guide for lion tattoo. First, outlining. Use a round liner, RL needle. Stroke between 4 and 4.5 millimeters. Machine speed around 7 to 7.5 volts. Focus on main lines, facial details, eyes, and nose carefully. Next, small shading and hair details. Use a round shader, RS needle, or small Magnum, M1. Stroke around 3.5 to 4 millimeters. Speed 7 to 7.5 volts. Short and controlled strokes for small shadows and hair strands. Then, large shading and manette. Use Magnum, M1 or M2. Stroke 4 to 5 millimeters. Speed 7 to 7.5 volts. Fill large areas, create smooth gradients. Keep hand movement steady. For textures and wide lines, use a flat, F needle. Stroke 4 to 5 millimeters. Speed 7 volts. Hand pressure is important for textures and wide shading. General tip: these numbers are just guidelines. They depend on machine, needle, hand, and skin type. Always test on artificial skin or a small area before starting. Now, after setting the stroke, let's start shading with RM. For this part, we're using grey wash number 3. Since it's slightly darker, it provides a perfect base for further shading on the rock and the paws. We begin from the bottom of the rock. We move to shading the sides of the lion's paw and the main lines of the manette. For this stage, we use the RL3 needle. First, apply ink carefully to the side areas of the paw with short, precise strokes. This ensures the shadows appear even and natural. Next, define the main lines of the manette accurately. With proper hand pressure and controlled speed, we can create fine details and hair texture. Keep in mind that each section of the paw requires slightly different pressure and speed adjustments. Using RL3 allows us to build shadows that show natural volume and depth. This step lays the foundation for continuing shading on other areas and completing hair details. We reach the areas that are dark. At this stage, we work carefully and focus on these sections. Using the right needle and darker grey wash helps the shadows gain more depth and intensity. Apply the ink gradually with short, controlled hand movements. The goal here is to create a clear contrast between dark and light shades. Every hand movement and pressure matters to build smooth, even layers of shading. Also, make sure the dark areas are executed uniformly and fluidly. This step makes the design appear three-dimensional and more realistic. Focusing on the dark shadows provides a strong foundation for continuing shading and lightening other areas. This first shading layer plays a very important role. Not only does it allow us to create base and dark shadows, but it also ensures that the stencil stays in place and the design remains accurate. With this initial layer, we can work on main lines and fine details without worrying about the stencil fading. Hand movement at this stage should be controlled and steady, and hand pressure adjusted so the ink is applied gently without damaging the stencil. This base layer forms the foundation for continuing shading in subsequent layers and creating natural volume and depth. It also helps us execute lighter shades and final details in the later stages smoothly. Now, We reach the stage where we use the flat needle, F. This needle is perfect for creating wide shadows and special textures. With F, we can fill large areas of the design and make the contrast between dark and light shades more visible. My technique is to apply the ink with slow, steady hand movements in controlled layers. Hand pressure should be balanced and precise, not too light and not too heavy. This step helps the design gain realistic volume and depth. Also, using F allows us to create smooth and natural gradients between dark and light areas. Every hand movement matters. Even slight changes in pressure or angle can affect the final result. This stage forms the foundation for completing details and precise shading on other areas. By focusing on accurate execution with F, we can shade all large and wide areas of the design realistically and professionally, and this makes working on fine details and hair in later stages much easier and more precise. We reach the critical stage of shading the fine hairs on the lion's paws. In this step, we use a combination of RM and RL needles. RM helps create soft shadows and smooth gradients, while RL allows thin, precise hair lines. Every hand movement should be short, controlled, and consistent in speed. Hand pressure needs to be gradual and balanced, so each strand of hair looks natural. We carefully adjust the needle angle in different areas to maintain the direction and flow of the hairs. Near joints and paw edges, delicate and gentle strokes are required to preserve fine details. Using both RM and RL, we can build deep, multi-layered hair textures that add realism. Throughout this stage, ensure each section of the paw maintains its own texture and shadows are applied with controlled lines and proper pressure. This base layer forms the foundation for continuing shading and completing other areas. Patience and focus at this stage ensure that the lion's paw hairs have natural volume, direction, and brightness. This technique also allows subsequent layers, lighter shades, and final details to be added smoothly and effectively. We move to the stage of shading the lion's manet and dark hair areas with the RM needle. By the way, if you learned even one tip so far, don't forget to hit like and drop a comment. There are still important techniques and tips coming at the end of the video. So stay tuned until the end. I've also placed the Realism tattoo tutorial at the top of the screen, but make sure to watch it after this video if you want to learn tattoo realism. At this stage, the focus is on dark and detailed sections of the manet to maintain natural contrast with lighter strands. We carefully adjust the needle angle and hand movement to ensure the flow and direction of the hairs appear realistic. This technique allows us to create deep layers and realistic shadows. Even in sensitive areas near the face or ears, careful pressure and controlled speed keep the dark details natural. This stage forms a foundation for later work on lighter manet details and integration with other hair areas. Focusing on this step ensures the lion's manet has volume, movement, and natural texture, enhancing the realism of the tattoo. We move to the instructional part of shading and hair technique for the lion. First, we examine the manet and long hairs. To create natural and realistic volume, we need to determine the direction of hair growth. Using RM for soft shading and RL for fine lines is the most effective approach. Hand movement should be short, controlled, and continuous. In dark areas of the manet, slightly more hand pressure and denser ink create depth and natural contrast. 4 lighter sections and a natural highlight reduce pressure and build smooth gradients. The main technique is to layer gradually, making shadows and lines seamless and flowing. Adjusting hand angles helps the hairs follow a natural flow and flexibility. Near sensitive areas like the face and ears, fine, thin hair strands are executed carefully. This method gives depth and texture to each strand and makes the manet appear three-dimensional and lively. Repeating these steps and focusing on details establishes a strong foundation for shading the body and final hair details. Ultimately, combining RM and RL and F-controlled hand movement and careful layering makes the lion's hair appear as realistic as possible in the tattoo. We move to shading the lion's manet and head. In this stage, we use a combination of F and RM needles. F is used for broad lines, texture, and manet volume, while RM creates soft shadows and precise hair details. Hand movement should be fully controlled and consistent, allowing ink to settle gradually. In dark areas of the manner and head, apply slightly more pressure to create depth and natural contrast. For lighter areas and a natural hair highlight, reduce pressure and build smooth gradients. Needle angle and stroke length along the manner maintain the natural flow and direction of the hairs. At this stage, the focus is on creating natural volume, realistic hair texture, and contrast between light and dark strands. First, carefully observe the direction of hair growth. This is very important because ignoring it makes the manner appear flat and unnatural. Hand movement should be short, controlled, and continuous so each strand flows naturally. The RM and F needle is used for shadows and dark hair strands. With RM, you can create depth and soft gradients. Use short, alternating strokes for RM, so each layer is controlled and smooth. For lighter strands, reduce pressure and create soft, seamless gradients. This ensures that the gradient between light and dark hairs appears natural and uniform. The F needle is used for broad texture and baselines of the manner. F helps fill large areas and gives the manner volume. Hand movement with F should be longer and smoother so the ink lays evenly. Proper combination of F and RM makes the manner appear three-dimensional, realistic, and alive. Professional tips to follow. 1. Always test on fake skin or a small section to adjust hand pressure and needle angle. Before touching the main design, run a quick test on fake skin or a tiny corner of the piece. This lets you dial in pressure, not too deep, not too shallow, and it reveals which angle gives the smoothest blends or the crispiest line work. 2. Allow time between layers for the ink to settle slightly before continuing shading. Lay a thin pass, then give the skin a moment to breathe. Let the pigment settle, so you avoid muddy tones and irritated skin. Spacing your passes creates cleaner gradients and deeper, richer value. 3. Hand movement should be steady. Consistent speed ensures smooth and natural shadows. Keep a stable rhythm, no sudden stops, no rushes. A consistent tempo lays down even tone and keeps big areas silky and uniform. 4. Needle angle is critical. Adjusting it along the manner ensures hairs follow natural growth. Rotate the hand slightly as the hair direction changes. A tighter angle near cheeks and ears makes the strands lie down. A more open angle on the outer manner boosts volume and flow. 5. Pay attention to facial and ear details. Lines must be thin, precise, and in harmony with facial features. Around the eyes, nose, and ear edges, switch to finer, deliberate marks. Match your strokes to the anatomy, so the manner blends naturally into the face. Common mistakes to avoid. 1. Excessive pressure causing ink buildup and unnatural hair. Heavy hands pack too much pigment, strands look swollen, and the skin suffers. 2. Moving too fast or uncontrolled, creating uneven or broken gradients. Speed spikes create blotches and banding. Keep the metronome steady. 3. Ignoring hair growth direction, making the manner flat and artificial. If strokes fight the growth, the manner loses depth and reads as flat. 4. Incorrect F and RM combination, preventing realistic texture. Use F for broad texture and base tone. RM for soft depth and micro transitions. Reversing the roles kills realism. 5. Not adjusting hand angle along the manner, making hair flow uniform and unnatural. A single fixed angle makes every section look the same, and that ruins movement. Advanced techniques and further explanations. 1. To create depth and realistic texture, layer strokes in slightly crossed or semi-rotating directions. Build with subtle cross passes. Those micro overlaps create believable density without harsh lines. 2. This creates natural hair overlap and adds volume. Let strands interlock, a touch here, a veil there. Volume grows from controlled overlap, not from pressing harder. 3. Near the face, use short, precise, and varied strokes to match hair with facial features. Shorten the stroke length, vary the cadence. Blend into cheek contours and muzzle edges for a seamless transition. 4. In dark areas, apply multiple thin layers with RM to create real depth. Stack gentle passes, Dry the tip, pass again. Depth arrives gradually, never in one heavy sweep. 5. In lighter areas, use long, gentle strokes to create soft, natural contrast. Extend the stroke, lighten the pressure. Let the highlight breathe so the manner reads airy and dimensional. 6. Pay attention to hair flow and strand direction to make the manner look alive and dynamic. Follow the curve, then pivot with the swirl. Movement is drawn, not guessed. Point 7. After each layer, check that shadows are uniform and edges are smooth. Pause, scan the values, soften a ridge if needed, then continue to the next pass with intention. Remember, when working on a lion tattoo, it's very important to build the shading layers patiently. You can also combine different grey wash tones to create better depth and contrast. The slower and more controlled your movements are, the more realistic and three-dimensional the result will look. This technique makes some areas look soft and natural, while others show more strength and intensity. Finally, don't forget that consistent practice is the key to mastering shading. Every time you practice, your control over the needle improves, and your lines and shadows become much cleaner. Now, let me share another important point. Always remember that grey wash is not just a simple technique. It's actually the foundation for many other tattoo styles such as realism, portraits, and even black and grey tattoos. If you want to create smooth and natural tattoos, you must practice to improve your control over needle depth and hand speed. Practicing on fake skin or even on paper can be a great help. And most importantly, always stay patient. If you also watch my realistic hair tattoo tutorial, it will definitely help you a lot. That video gives a better understanding of shading and hair details in realism and three-dimensional tattoos. I've also placed the realism tattoo tutorial, but make sure to watch it after this video if you want to learn tattoo realism. Good luck!